Hey guys, how's it going? Hobby Drew back here with another video. Today I have a DVD video and I decided to go through my collection and pick out the 10 most random and weird out of print DVDs that I have in my collection. Just sticking to DVD today. I'm sure like a lot of you guys out there who have big collections, you rely on a lot of secondhand shops. Here in Georgia, Atlanta, we have Book Nook, Half Price Books. There's this store called McKay's that has about 5 locations in the Tennessee area. My wife's family lives in Tennessee, so I get to make it up there a handful of times a year. And, you see all kinds of crazy stuff at these stores. A lot of these movies that I run across that look really strange end up being really rare and out of print and go for a lot of money. And, you get them for a couple of bucks and they look like interesting movies. So those are always my favorite things to find. As you can see here in the background, I have some Blu-rays I've just been enjoying recently. The Beastmaster Vinegar Syndrome. We have Heat from the World Cinema that I did a video on a couple weeks ago. Tremors Arrow release and Southland Tales Arrow release. I've been having a good time with all of those lately. But anyway, let's jump into this list. These are my top 10 weird, strangest out-of-print DVDs. And this first one is something called The Surgeon. And I've never seen this one at any store other than the time that I picked this up. It's some strange horror movie. It's got a pretty cool cover, actually. It's about a killer surgeon, obviously. As you can see here, first Jason, then Freddy, finally a professional. They're clearly setting this up to be the next, killer franchise. It's got a pretty good cast, actually. Peter Boyle, Malcolm McDowell, Charles Dance from Game of Thrones. These are pretty big names. I don't know anything. I haven't watched this yet. This guy, Dustin, who owned this before me, inscribed his name on it. He liked this movie so much. But I'm sure I'll watch it one of these days. It doesn't really get good reviews, I think, but it is an out-of-print and pricey DVD. I've never seen it before. This other one is really, really very obscure. I've never heard of this movie before. I saw this. I think I got this at McKay's last year. It's called Union City. This was released by Fox Lorber. I think it's a really early DVD. It came out in 1998. So, this was a really early DVD. It stars Everett McGill, Big Ed from Twin Peaks, and Deborah Harry from Videodrome. It sounds like kind of a David Lynchian type thing. It's like a film noir, kind of like a surreal film noir based on a Cornell Woolrich short story. He's, the famous detective film noir novelist. Again, I haven't watched this one yet. I really don't know anything about it, but it's very expensive if you look it up online. I think it's like $40 or $50. So, I'll watch it one of these times for sure. This Fox Lorber company, I think, is the Kino Lorber now that releases so many Blu-rays. But that looks like an interesting one, too. This next one, The Hunt for the Unicorn Killer. And you can see I found this at a Half Price Books for $2. I'm really not a fan of this Half Price bookstore, really. They know what they have. They mark up all of their rare out-of-print Blu-rays and DVDs to eBay prices. So it's really hard, in my experience, to find good deals there. But they had this in their clearance bin for $2, and I looked this one up, and this one was really rare. I think it goes for a lot of money online. It's one of these Fox original lines of DVDs that you never see these ever anymore. But the television channel Fox at one point in the early 2000s, started releasing all of their TV movies and miniseries on DVD. And this is a miniseries. I think it's like 4 hours long. It's about this guy. He's a cult leader, and he ends up killing one of his followers, and her family takes him to court. And it's like kind of a part crime mystery that's not really a mystery, and then part courtroom drama. It's okay. I watched it. It's not very good. I certainly wouldn't spend the money that this goes for on the aftermarket. But, I've never seen this before or after. Again, it's just a very strange one, and I had to pick it up when I saw it. It was just too weird, and for the price, you can't go wrong. This next one, I'm a decent fan of this movie. It's called Broken Vessels. You can see I have the sticker on here. I got this for $2.95 at a McKay's. And this is kind of a weird, I think this came out in the late 90s, 98. So I think this came out the same year as Martin Scorsese's Bringing Out the Dead. And, this on the back looks exactly like something from that movie. And the front, of course, looks like a horror movie. It's really like neither, in my opinion. It's basically like a kind of just a drama. These two ambulance guys, and one of them's like a drug addict. It stars Todd Field and Jason London. Todd Field is a pretty famous actor and director these days. And Jason London was big in the 90s. But this one's pretty good, as I recall. But yeah, this is one of those kind of random ones. You don't really see it very often. Okay, so this next one I have seen and I have not seen it. And what I mean by that is Strange Frequency 2. I've seen Strange Frequency 1, and basically what these DVDs are are releases of, it's this like rock and roll horror anthology television show that came on the VH1 channel a long time ago, 2001, and it only had one season. And they did something really weird. Instead of releasing this season of Strange Frequency like in a DVD, season box set like everyone else does, they split it up into like these separate versions, and they just kind of patched the episodes together. So it's a really strange way to release these, in my opinion. So I've seen the first Strange Frequency, but I've not seen the second one. I picked it up. It's pretty good. It's about what you would expect. I mean, it's not really that edgy. It's kind of like just a very soft horror with rock and roll storylines. But, they do have like B-list stars. As I recall, it is pretty entertaining, and you just never ever hear anyone talk about these ever. I mean, I've talked to people who've never heard of this thing before when I bring up like horror anthologies. And I'll watch this at some point. The first one was pretty good, as I recall, and the second one, remains to be seen. This next one's a big-time favorite of mine, and sticking with horror anthologies. This is one called Twists of Terror. And I think, this is a Canadian release. I don't think this ever came out in America on DVD. I think this was I can't remember what store I bought this, but obviously they had somebody who traded in an imported DVD. But I think this is a Canadian movie also. It's an anthology, and I like it a lot. I actually remember seeing this movie when I was young. I think I rented it on video from, a local video store or something like this, and I completely forgot about it until I saw this DVD, and it jogged my memory. And I watched it again, and I actually really love this. I think this is like a super underrated, very obscure horror anthology. It's really strange. The narrator, the guy who's like the anthology storyteller in the movies, like a really strange, he's like a hermit inside of this middle-class house, and he's got newspaper clippings everywhere. And the stories themselves are not really unique stories, but they're very atmospheric. They're all set like at nighttime, kind of like these very depopulated, lonely settings. I just really like this. I think this is an underrated movie. And again, one that I've never, ever seen before. This next one is a Habitat, and this is like literally the strangest movie that I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't even know how to describe this movie. It's some weird ecological thriller. You have to watch it. I can't even begin to describe the plot, but it literally is one of the 2 or 3 strangest movies I've ever seen in my life. It's got kind of a weird cast. Balthazar Getty, who most people know. Excuse me. And it's got a lot of familiar faces. It's got a lot of I think Wyndham Earle from Twin Peaks has a part in this. It's got a lot of people from that Are You Afraid of the Dark? The Great Kids horror anthology TV show. So I think this might have been filmed in Canada too, actually, because I think that was a Canadian production. But in any case, I've never seen this I think this one is pretty pricey to get online. I think it's really hard to come by. I think there's some really strange trivia with this movie. I think it was like the first movie ever shot on like digital film or something like that from like a major studio. It's a Warner Brothers release right here. But you would never think it to watch the movie because it's got really strange production values that aren't great. And it's just the weirdest movie I've ever seen. But I did pick that up, I think, at a McKay's. And keeping on the theme of weird movies, this one is called The Dark Backward. I think this came out in the mid or late 1991. Okay, a lot earlier than that, the early 90s. Again, I mean, this is just one of the strangest movies, and the DVD is, really hard to come by, I think. But Judd Nelson plays this stand-up comic who has an arm growing out of his back. It's set in some weird, kind of futuristic, dark, dystopian, really, dirty city. And Bill Paxton plays his best friend. And Bill Paxton's, he, sleeps with all these, very, very heavy-set women. I don't even know this is just, again, one of the weirdest movies that I've ever seen in my life. And I remember, one of the ones earlier, renting this from the video store when I was much younger, and it always stuck with me because it was just such a bizarre movie. And then I had no clue that it was released on DVD until I ran across it a handful of years ago in one of these shops. And it's definitely out of print, definitely very high. I can't imagine this will ever get a Blu-ray release. You don't hear anyone ever talk about this movie at all, but it's really unlike anything I've ever seen before. I'm not sure this filmmaker, Adam Rifkin, I'm not sure if he's done anything else. The name sounds familiar to me, so I'll need to look that up. This one I actually watched recently. I got this about a year ago, I think at a McKay's before COVID. And I have the hardest time finding anything about this movie. I think when I ran across it for a few dollars at McKay's, there was like one listing on Amazon for like $300, and I couldn't find it on eBay anywhere, and I could find nothing about the movie. And then even before making this video, I looked it up again, and the listing is out on Amazon, but nobody is selling it, and it's nowhere to be found on eBay. And as far as I can tell, like there's on the secondhand market, there's even no way of buying this movie. It's called Stalker. C. Thomas Howell from The Hitcher. So he's kind of a known horror face. I watched this recently, and it's okay. It's kind of a weird movie too. I mean, this guy is stalking C. Thomas Howell, who slept with his wife. This guy killed his wife, and then on the murder trial, C. Thomas Howell ends up being one of the jurors picked randomly. And so he connects that C. Thomas Howell slept with his wife, and he starts stalking him. I don't know. It's a really weird plot. It's kind of like a standard, B film, stalker thriller, But the weird one about this one is that, I can't find this for sale anywhere online at all. And it's really rare, and needless to say, never seen it anywhere else. And then the last one I'm going to do here is genuinely one of my favorite movies of all time. I was super happy to find this. I had no idea this was released on DVD ever until I found it. And again, I think this is even like a UK or Canadian. This has definitely never been released in the United States. And it's this weird movie called The Music of Chance. And it's an American film. James Spader, Mandy Patinkin. I think it was the early 90s, I think. Doesn't say on here. I think it was like 1994, 1995 or something like that. But it's this really strange drama. It's based off of a Paul Auster novel. And basically, James Spader's this, gambler who's kind of down on his luck. And Mandy Patinkin's a hitchhiker who picks him up. And they end up getting into this strange poker game with Charles Durning and Joel Grey, who are another couple of big actors. And they end up losing the game and being held hostage to pay off the debt by building this wall. And there's like really no explanation beyond that. But it becomes like very abstract, very kind of abstract psychological thriller. But I really love this movie. It feels like it's like a Twilight Zone or something like that. And again, I think in America, this got a VHS release, because I did have the VHS tape at one point and never a DVD. And I think here, whatever region this is, it's PAL, so it's a region 2. It got this DVD release. But, you never see this, needless to say. I can't remember what store. This might have been a Book Nook in Atlanta. But I jumped all over this because I had no clue it was on even a foreign DVD. And I just recommend people seek this movie out any way that they can. I genuinely think it's one of my favorite movies. I like to watch this one once a year. It's just so strange. It's such a kind of an unusual psychological drama. So, I definitely recommend this one. And yeah, that's going to be it, guys. Those are my 10 weirdest out-of-print DVDs that I've found in secondhand stores over the years. So once again, I appreciate you watching this video. I say this at the end of every one of my videos, but this is kind of a really random channel. It's just me talking about my hobbies. I do a lot of DVD and Blu-ray. I do a lot of sports cards. That's one of my other hobbies. I'll probably venture off into some other videos at some point in time. But if you guys watch this and you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate, like the video, leave a comment maybe if you have something to say, if you've seen any of these movies before, or give me a subscription, if you want to keep checking out what I'm releasing. I'm going to, try and do 1 or 2 videos a week just going forward, talking about my random hobbies. So anyway, guys, I appreciate your time, and I'll see you soon.